body, it's no longer the mind, that you're the mind.
Yes.
And when you do that, those victories add up, and then all of a sudden, there's a liberation of energy. The environment is actually causing the organism through the stress hormones and the long-term effects. What if we teach people how to go from that narrow focus to broadening their focus and opening their focus and focusing on nothing material or physical? And when we did that, by sensing space, by sensing nothing, opening and broadening their focus, those different compartments of the brain that were firing out of order incoherently started to synchronize. Now what syncs in the brain links in the brain. And all of a sudden the person starts to feel more like themselves. There's an integration. So we started noticing these elegant states where there was global coherence. In other words, we were measuring many compartments of the brain simultaneously. And when waves are working in order, when they're working in coherence, then the whole entire brain is working like a symphony. And you start feeling whole, and you start feeling clear, and you can think, you're coherent, you can have a vision or an intention of the future. So when we were doing these studies, we noticed that if we could teach people how to dial down their thinking neocortex, their analytical mind, and by sensing space, if you're sensing, you're not thinking or analyzing, you're sensing, and you start slowing your brainwaves from that high beta brainwave state when you're in survival into these lower beta brainwave states and ultimately into alpha.
Okay, alpha.
Now, alpha is the creative state. Alpha is the imaginary state. That's when the voice in your head that's talking to you all the time, that default mode kind of shuts off, and your brain starts to see in images and pictures. You start imagining. It's an imaginary state. It's a creative state. So we use that state in the state of creation, but then we took it a little further. What if we could teach a person to slow their brainwaves down even more into theta? And in theta, you're in a hypnotic state. And hypnotic states cause you to be very suggestible to information. And suggestibility is your ability to accept, believe, and surrender to information as the truth without ever analyzing it, and that's what exactly programs the subconscious mind. We also discovered that you didn't have to have those transcendental moments. All you had to do is work on regulating your internal state every day. And the novice meditators, people who just came to an event that really had no experience in meditation but immersed themselves for 7 days, our data suggests at the end of 7 days, their body completely looks like they're in a different life, a completely different environment. The science is pointing the finger at there's strong environmental changes going on in the person's biology, but they're in a ballroom. There's not a lot of things happening in a ballroom, but so then how does that happen? Okay, so the application then becomes important for everybody, because when we started looking at advanced meditators that didn't have those transcendental states, but they practiced meditation every day, there was a dosing effect. In other words, the more they self-regulated, the more they were resistant to the things in their environment. Well, let's think about that. If I say to you, why are you upset today? And you say, I'm upset because of the staff member, I'm upset because what I heard on the news, there was traffic, I was late. What you're really saying is, my environment, some person, some condition, something in my outer world is actually having control over the way I feel and the way I think. And so that's a subconscious program called victimization. Anything that controls you, the way you feel and the way you think, you're victim to. Now the problem is that the majority of times our response to the environment weakens the organism. That means that your fear, your anger, your aggression weakens the organism, you. So now the environment is actually causing the organism through the stress hormones and the long-term effects to really start down-regulating systems in the body, right? So then, it's
incredible.
So as long as you react to your environment and the response is causing you to become weakened, you're victim to your environment. Well, what makes sense then would you be more susceptible to anything in your environment because you're a victim to it. But the process of change is the difficulty is that 90% of the thoughts you think are the same thoughts you thought the day before. Nerve cells that fire together wire together. Keep firing the same thoughts, keep making the same choices, keep doing the same things, keep recreating the same experiences that stamp the same networks of neurons into the same patterns, all for the familiar feeling called you. And do that enough times, and your biology, your neurocircuitry, your neurochemistry, your hormones, your gene expression stays the same because you're the same. Okay, so then instead of sitting down and trying to meditate for 10 minutes and say, then believe in the thought I can't meditate, or I don't have enough time, or I'm a really important person, or I got too many emails to answer, or it's garbage day, or it's my mother's fault, it's my ex's fault, I want to complain, I want to blame, I want to make excuses, I want to lay down, my bladder's full, I like this, what am I doing wrong? They're agitated, impatient. That's the personality that has been hardwired and conditioned emotionally into the past that's resisting the unknown. It would rather cling to suffering than take a chance in possibilities. So our events, we say, okay, here's the knowledge, and I can say now with a great degree of certainty, more than ever, that if you actually do this and you stretch yourself a little bit further than where you would normally go at home, your brain will change. And if you teach people how to do this over and over again, and no different than training an animal. The body is the animal. You're telling the body it's no longer the mind, that you're the mind.
Yes.
And when you do that, those victories add up, and then all of a sudden, there's a liberation of energy. There goes the guilt, there goes the pain, there goes the whatever. It doesn't matter if it's health, it doesn't matter if it's wealth or success, it doesn't matter if it's a loving relationship, a change in a career, a mystical experience. Whatever it is, the person all of a sudden starts to relax into the present moment.